What's up, guys? It's Jughead here, just a down-to-earth guy trying to bring you some down-to-earth content. There are pages from the 5-issue comic run titled Lex Luthor Man of Steel that I'm going to show you and read to you that, in my opinion, provide an extraordinarily concise, clear, and powerful lens into the ethos of Lex Luthor and the very idea of him as the man, as the sometimes villain, other times anti-hero, as the adversary, and the intellectual equal to Superman. It is this comic Nicholas Hoult said he read the most, and it's this Lex Luthor I want in Superman in the DCU. It's this kind of Lex Luthor character I am hoping James Gunn wrote and Nicholas Hoult will deliver in this new DCU. The very first page opens with a shot of the newly constructed Metropolis Science Spire, Lex Luthor's new skyscraper towering over the city with an ungodly large L planted at the top to signify just who created this Mount Olympus of a building. Lex Luthor thinks to himself, she will stand as a beacon, shining even brighter than the star that is my metropolis, lighting the way for mankind everywhere. A staggering tribute to our potential, an undeniable example of the greatness we're capable of achieving, a symbol I can touch that represents the dream within us all, of the heights humanity can aspire to. You can take these words Luthor speaks to himself, about himself and his creation, and use them to describe the man he hates most, Superman. Superman stands as a beacon. Superman lights the way for mankind everywhere, to the good we can each and all do. Superman is a tribute to our potential for goodness. Superman is the undeniable example of the greatness we are capable of achieving. We can also do extraordinary good in the world. Superman is a symbol you can touch, and Superman represents the dream within all of us. Our dream for something greater than ourselves, our dream to do better and be better. Superman physically floats at the height we aspire to reach, the heights within ourselves to reach our potential, reach our goals, reach outside of ourselves for others. Lex Luthor does not want Superman to be that beacon, to be the shining light, or any sort of tribute. He doesn't want Superman to be the example of greatness to humanity. Lex Luthor wants Lex Luthor to be all of those things. Lex Luthor wants to be that symbol. He wants to create that symbol himself. Lex Luthor wants to be the example of greatness. As a man, as a human, he wants other human beings on Earth to look to him, look up to him, to mankind, and mankind's creations and accomplishments, not Superman, because Superman is not a man. Lex Luthor and his assistant are tracking and talking about Superman when she says, he's been here since I was a little girl, and it's still really hard to believe, not just that a man can fly, but that he can fly that fast. To which Lex Luthor's only rebuttal is, he's not a man. He asks her, do you want to marry him? A childhood fantasy like a Prince Charming. She hesitantly replies, I suppose so. Every little girl does. And every little boy wants to be him. That upsets Lex, who says, yeah, that's what makes him so dangerous. Dangerous? I don't think so. I do. Lex Luthor despises the fact that little boys dream of being Superman and little girls dream of marrying a Superman. Women want to be with him and men want to be him. That strikes fear and anger in Lex Luthor. And if you read enough Superman comics, you'll understand this also makes Lex Luthor jealous, because you come to see him in this run and other moments of Lex Luthor as a character that he is a man starved of connection, of physical but mostly emotional intimacy. He is a lonely man. He is a charismatic, popular, supremely intelligent, beyond wealthy man, but he is a lonely, obsessed, jealous man. Does he hate that women want Superman, or does he hate that women don't want him? Does he hate that little boys dream of becoming Superman, or does he hate that those little boys never dream of becoming Lex Luthor? Does he want mankind to not look up to anyone but themselves, or does he want mankind to look up to him? Panels show Superman as Lex sees Superman, with glowing red eyes, terrifying expression, altogether alien-looking, inhuman, because that's who Superman is to Lex. Again, we read him thinking to himself, not a man, not even close. Yet, most accept him like a member of the family. Grown-up little girls and boys, certain that the uncertain will bully them, find comfort in their big brother from another planet. He's made himself appear so much like us, he has almost everyone forgetting he's not one of us. Almost. I also find this panel fascinating because coming back to it also always makes me think whether Lex Luthor is jealous of the way people see Superman, accepting him like one in the family, when if you know a bit about him or read more of his character, Lex does not come from a good family. His father is an asshole and not good to Lex. Lex does not have a good family or upbringing. It's safe to say Lex's childhood would have caused trauma, fueled his independence, his solitude, and his drive to excellence. But would it also make him wish people saw him as one of their family members, to be a part of someone else's family, to belong? I think this is an interesting dynamic because in the Superman trailer, it's not called LexCorp when we see the skyscraper. It's Luthor Corp, which to me hints at the possible storyline that Lex Luthor's father is alive and the head of the company Luthor Corp, and Lex Luthor is not yet the Lex Luthor we know from the comics, because LexCorp is very iconic. It is LexCorp. So to go out of your way to call it Luthor Corp has to mean something, in my opinion. And Lex Luthor is going to change Luthor Corp to LexCorp once there is only one Luthor, one Lex, and it's him and only him, I can only imagine, to feed his ego and stature and desire to be the beacon in Metropolis. Change it to his first name and be LexCorp. Lex Luthor continues to think to himself, you've been referred to by some as the world's greatest Boy Scout, fighting for truth, justice, and the American way, as if that were some inseparable holy trinity. Truth? That's in the teller. Just calmly messaged words that very well may be nothing but carefully finessed lies. Justice belongs to the judge, who sits above those who put him there because they can't trust themselves. And the American way, it constantly evolves out of something that proves to be true and a lie, just and more. All men are created equal. All men are created equal. All men. You are not a man. Lex Luthor believes Superman doesn't fight for truth. Truth is whatever the teller says, and the teller is whoever people listen to. Superman doesn't fight for the truth. Superman dictates what the truth is. The truth is whatever Superman wants it to be, because who would go up against Superman? And it could all be lies, like the lie in his very name that he is a man. Superman doesn't fight for justice because he is the judge. He's an all-powerful, godlike figure. Justice is what he says is justice. Superman resides above humanity looking down, and it's the people who put him there, up on that pedestal. The American way, how can Superman fight for the ever-evolving American way when he is one who does not age, does not evolve, whose fate rests in the lifespan of the sun? How can Superman fight for the American way when he's not American? He's not even a man. The American way is that all men are created equal. Something that wasn't always the truth, was sometimes a lie. And how can Superman fight for that when he himself is a lie? He himself is not a man, nor was he created equal to man. He sits above humanity. But they've made you their hero. and they worship you. So tell me, what redemption do you offer them? Those red eyes, I'm sure they look right through me, like I am nothing more than a nuisance. But when I see you, I see something no man can ever be. I see the end of our potential, the end of our achievements, the end of our dreams. You are my nightmare. Lex Luthor despises that humanity looks up to an alien as their beacon and hero instead of himself. If Superman never existed, Lex Luthor would have been Earth's greatest hero. He would have been the one to usher in a new era for humanity. This is Lex's frustration and existential dilemma. Lex Luthor sees humanity as not living up to their potential because of Superman, but ironically will never live up to his own potential himself. He wished to be Earth's greatest hero, the peak of potential, and the hero's journey in people's eyes. In multiple comic runs, Lex Luthor becomes president, coming closer to this potential, evolving and becoming more, but that will never happen, not because of Superman, but because of his obsession with Superman. In different runs of Superman, Superman has called out Lex Luthor multiple times for this hypocrisy, telling Lex if he really wished to lead humanity into a new era, into a brighter future, he could have done so and would have done so, regardless of Superman. But didn't. Lex Luthor always had and always has the ability to sacrifice or innovate or change or fix the world for the sake of humanity, but he's denied himself of that fact and that destiny his entire life. The only one limiting his potential is himself, which is the entire message of Superman. Superman represents your potential for greatness, and any man can become Superman. The only one preventing you from reaching your potential is you. I think it was in All-Star Superman where Superman tells Lex somewhere along the lines of, you could have saved the world years ago if it mattered to you, Lex. If Lex Luthor really was meant to be Earth's greatest hero, the beacon of light and symbol of humanity's potential, he would have been able to do anything and everything regardless of and in despite of Superman. I've made it my business to see this city from every possible angle, so I know it like the back of my hand, and it's ironic that Metropolis never looks more magnificent to me than when I see it from his angle. But what does he see what I see? Does he see the finest example of what humanity can accomplish, reaching for the sky? Does he see a city that lives up to its past while defining its future? Does he see the greatest city on the planet, or does he merely look down on it? This is a statement Lex Luthor makes to himself while taking off for Gotham, as he sets a meeting with Bruce Wayne for a meeting. Lex Luthor hates Superman so much that he intends to attempt to recruit fellow billionaire, businessman, and peer Bruce Wayne to go against Superman. The interesting part about this in the comics is that while it is not explicitly stated, at least in my opinion, when I read it, it is assumed that Lex Luthor knows Bruce Wayne is Batman. Lex Luthor is the most brilliant and intelligent man on Earth, after all. While Mr. Terrific may be smarter in the realms of mathematics, quantum mechanics, and physics, Lex Luthor is more intelligent than Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific admits that himself. Lex Luthor is more intelligent when it comes to business, to politics, to influence, to global affairs, to psychology and human behavior. Lex Luthor gives Bruce Wayne a piece of kryptonite as a parting gift, in my opinion, trying to convince not just Bruce Wayne to go against Superman, but Batman to go against Superman. Lex Luthor briefly exchanges words with Alfred when he tells him, "You're more loyal than flattered. I respect that." And Alfred, respect is something that's earned, not inherited. Lex believes he is owed respect because he's earned it. He deserves more because he's worked for and earned it, while Superman is worshipped and respected for powers he was born with and didn't earn. All that Superman has and is, he inherited. All that Lex has and is, he had to fight and claw for. And yet still Superman is worshipped and respected more in his own city of Metropolis. He continues to ponder with images of Batman alongside on the page. More often than not, when choosing a path, it's the easy road that's taken. The reasons are obvious, understandable, but ultimately undefendable, because we are created to create ourselves. It is the greatest gift our Creator gave to us. The problem, though, is that for many, a gift falls short of what they believe they deserve. Born to greatness is a lie, and fate was invented by cowards, but destiny is something we hold in our hands. Lex Luthor hates superheroes, but does he hate Batman less because Bruce Wayne is a man and because he might see himself in Bruce Wayne or Batman in some ego way? Because Bruce Wayne chose a path and not the easy road. Born into money and prestige and comfort, he inherited a last name and an empire, like Superman with his powers. To continue with this easy road would have been understandable for Lex, but undefendable. But Bruce Wayne recreated himself. He created Batman, and now Bruce Wayne is the mask. Nobody is born to greatness. You are not great automatically because of money or superpowers. Fate is predetermined, something you cannot escape from, so what's the point in trying? That's why Lex says fate was invented by cowards, but destiny is determined by the choices and actions taken by each one of us. It's something we hold in our hands. Lex likes Batman, the dark vigilante who does good the ugly way, and despises Superman who does good with a positive image. Batman tries to use the piece of kryptonite against Superman. This issue is really confusing because it does not state whatsoever why Superman is in Gotham and fighting Batman. And it is not stated whatsoever why Batman wanted kryptonite. The only reasonable assumption is Superman heard there was a masked vigilante in Gotham hurting people and being violent, and has kryptonite in his possession and found out that it's Batman. And Batman presumably looking to accrue more kryptonite once he heard of Superman and planned in case Superman ever came after him. This issue, there are 5 issues in this run. Issue 3 concerns Batman. This issue number 3 really makes no sense. As soon as this run deviates from Lex, it goes off the rails into nonsense. But it nonetheless is still relevant only for the great lines you get from Luthor. Long story short, Superman beats the shit out of Batman, essentially. So Batman, therefore Bruce Wayne, knows exactly who Superman is and how powerful he is. So while Lex is talking about Superman, warning about Superman, Bruce Wayne, though he is acting aloof and clueless, knows precisely what he is saying. Lex Luthor says, "The dragon is real, Bruce. I've stood next to it. Hell, I've stood up to it." And you see the piece of kryptonite because so has Bruce Wayne. He stood up to Superman as well as Batman. So when Lex says, "Can you say the same?" Bruce Wayne answers with, "I've never met him." But Batman could say the same, and actually more so than Luthor. Lex calls it unnatural. Bruce replies, "It has a name, Lex." Lex cuts him off. That we gave him, an attempt to humanize him, as pointless as naming a hurricane. Forget the name, Bruce, and think about what he can do. Think about a hurricane with a will. Then multiply that intensity 1,000-fold. "Good thing he's on our side," Bruce casually replies. "What if he changes his mind?" Luthor asks. "What if, tonight, he looks down at us and decides we're not capable to manifest our own destiny? What if tomorrow he wakes up believing he knows what's best for us, that it's not enough to protect the world when he can rule it? The only safeguard we have against that happening is his word. And I say his word is not enough. Even if you believe it, does it make sense to accept it? What choice do we have?" That's the wrong question. What you should be asking is, what can we choose to do about it? And he hands Bruce the kryptonite, showing that these conversations and panels were happening out of order. The perfect gift for the man who has everything except a care in the world. I can afford not to. No, you can't. None of us can. I'm not interested in bringing him down, but obsessed with bringing us up. All of us, everyone, deserves a chance at greatness. All that takes is the belief that it exists. But his existence threatens not just that belief, but our existence. I believe there's something inherently dangerous when something real becomes mythic. I believe when that happens, we lose the part of ourselves that yearns to be great. Because when faced with a myth, we can't win. So the mythic must be exposed for what it is, so we can believe in ourselves, because it's only what's in us, the drive to be mythic, that matters. And it is there, when Bruce gets beat by Superman, that he agrees to partner with Lex. That is the existential threat Lex Luthor is afraid of. He may well be jealous of Superman. He may well see Superman as a philosophical threat, but he sees Superman as a physical, existential threat as well. A loose cannon, a hurricane with a will. Lex Luthor wants to be mythic. Lex Luthor wants his fate to turn into destiny. Without Superman, he can yearn to not just be great, but the greatest. He believes it is Superman depriving humanity from yearning for greatness because they have already witnessed the greatest of power, the greatest of potential, the greatest of good, and it's something they cannot attain, and it's already been attained anyways. We already have that. Superman has led humanity into stagnation, into acceptance, complacency. Lex Luthor doesn't just want Superman dead, because then Superman becomes more than a living legend, a living myth. He becomes a martyr. He becomes history. Lex Luthor wants to topple the statues down, disgrace his name, pull the curtain, and expose Superman for what he is. When Lex Luthor unveils his new tower in front of the crowds and in front of the press, in the spotlight, on the stage, being looked up at, being the center of attention, exactly where and how he wants to be, he tells them, there's nothing to fear up here in the clouds, for it's where your and my own future lies. Humankind is a species that, faults and all, defiantly reaches higher. Some of you may think that's because it's a ladder we're climbing. Others believe it's to return from where we came. But whatever doctrine you individually subscribe to, the quest for the clouds is one we must all share. All of us, every man, woman, and child, we must strive to make today better than yesterday and tomorrow better than all of us. That's why I built this Science Spire. I consider it a record of what we as a people have accomplished and of what's yet to come. I need someone from among you to raise the spire, which is only a foundation. I believe in my heart that you will. I believe in humanity, and I believe that I am exactly like you. I believe that we must control our own destiny. I believe in a higher power. In this run, Lex Luthor creates a synthetic woman named Hope to be the new hero of Metropolis. On this page, he tells her, "You are not a woman. You are something more. I love you." So instead of saving humanity or improving the world in other ways, he spends countless money and countless resources creating his own superpowered individual to replace Superman. So he doesn't hate superheroes. He only hates the one he can't control and the one who is above him. By creating Hope, he controls her. And even with powers, she will always be below him because she was created and he is the creator. Also, he says she is not a woman because she is synthetic, but she is something more. But he calls Superman not a man because he's an alien, and that makes him something less. Is it also a coincidence the synthetic he created is a woman? Or did he do so on purpose because the only woman he could ever get close to kiss, to say he loves and say she loves him back, is a synthetic woman he created himself. Did he create her selflessly for the safety and betterment of Metropolis and its citizens, or did he create her for himself and his ego? Lex Luthor says about Superman, your arrogance may be actually greater than your abilities. You profess a love of humanity, but that is an emotion you can't possibly know, because those same abilities make it impossible for you to know its opposite. It's something that today has its grip on every heart in Metropolis: fear. He created Hope for the sole purpose that she would go up against Superman and lose. Essentially, sacrifice her because Superman would not hold back against a non-human. He says, I've delivered her to an altar for an alien to sacrifice, an alien that holds life sacred above all else, an alien that sees no life in Hope. He doesn't just sacrifice her to die at the hands of Superman either. He set a self-destruct prompt within her. He created a synthetic life, a person essentially with an imagination and thoughts, everything like that, and killed her. Built her to kill her, just to taint Superman's image. Lex Luthor killed and would kill innocents. No number is the limit. Conspire with terrorists, blow up his own skyscraper, kill the woman he just slept with and said I love you to, if it meant hurting Superman's image. Superman tells Lex, I can see your soul. Lex yells, you can't, because if you could, you would see a man who willingly denied himself happiness, who chose to give up hope for the world, a world without Superman. I know I can't beat you alone, but then I'm not alone. There are 6.5 billion of me and only one of you, and we can drive you back out to the blackness from which you came. What the world watched you do tonight, if it only changes one mind about what you are, what gives measure to a man's choices is what he has to give up to make them. I am a man. This 5-issue series is so amazing because it reframes Lex Luthor not as a pure villain, but as a complex anti-hero. You get the narrative told from Lex Luthor's perspective, providing all the insight into his own motivations, his own fear, his side of the ideological war he wages against Superman. Lex is portrayed as a man who sees Superman not as humanity's savior, but as its greatest threat. Luthor both fears Superman's immense power and also what he perceives as humanity's dependency on him. Lex views himself as the only one who can safeguard humanity's autonomy and potential. The quest he goes on shows the morally gray, ambiguous paths he's willing to go down. It highlights how brilliant, yet how ruthless he is at the same time. That's what I want from Lex Luthor in the DCU. Lex Luthor, in general, is such a multifaceted character. He is someone who simultaneously embodies intellect and ambition with humanity's darkest potential. Superman's powers come from his Kryptonian blood. Lex Luthor represents the pinnacle of human achievement. Incredibly brilliant and flawed in equal measure. That's what makes him so fascinating and captivating when written well. Luthor doesn't have superpowers, yet he stands toe-to-toe with Superman through his sheer intellect, his total cunning, and his massive influence in almost every aspect of society. Luthor also reflects the absolute best and worst of humanity, being driven solely by ambition, by pride, by fear. These are not good things, but at the same time, he believes deeply in humanity's potential, which is at the same time a righteous thing. Luthor views Superman as the threat to our independence. People should not depend on some all-powerful alien, but strive to solve their own problems. Superman's existence alone is what is stifling human progress and reducing humanity down to mere passive spectators on the planet, in the galaxy, in the universe. But then, through all of this philosophical talk, despite all this railing against the dangers of absolute power, Luthor seeks it for himself, revealing him to be a hypocrite and man built on internal contradictions. Luthor does have sympathetic motivations. You can relate to the fear of losing control over humanity's destiny. But next to none of you would agree with the statement that the ends justify the means, because that's wrong. But it makes Lex Luthor multidimensional, because instead of a cliche villain, you see a tragic figure undone by his own hubris. Lex Luthor in the DCU needs to possess a personal rivalry with Superman. Lex needs to have jealousy and resentment, not only for Superman's power, but for what he represents. An ideal that Luthor feels he can never achieve, that should have been his. The peak of potential he can never reach. Adoration, attention, respect, worship, and love he can never attain. Some portrayals of Lex Luthor have him as a rags to riches, humble beginnings to quintessential self-made billionaire, with his success being a testament to human potential, but one fueled by a ruthless desire for power. I don't care much for this version of Lex. There are versions of Lex with more tragic roots, ones exploring a tragic childhood, loss, neglect, abuse, a depth to his character explaining his drive for control and fear of vulnerability, his father being an overall piece of shit. It's the version I would rather see on screen. And like I said earlier in the video, with the corporation name being Luthor Corp and not the iconic Lex Corp, yet at least maybe, I have to believe this is maybe the route they're going with, and even somewhat hope so. Jealousy is a significant factor in Luthor's relationship with Superman, but it needs to be layered and nuanced and just written well. Luthor needs to resent the fact that Superman's power and status come effortlessly from his Kryptonian blood, where Luthor has had to fight, claw, and manipulate his way to success and respect and to the top. His jealousy of this is necessary because it's this right here that undermines Luthor's belief in meritocracy and human exceptionalism, neither of which actually exist. Luthor also needs to crave the adoration and trust that Superman receives. Lex believes she should be the one seen as the beacon of light, as humanity's savior, because he has earned it. Or else, what does his intellect and all of his accomplishments even mean? This is what I want to see. I want to see Superman as a mirror. I want to see Superman expose Luthor's insecurities. I want Lex Luthor to deep down know his self-serving methods, his ego, and greed-tainted motivations are why he is not seen as humanity's hero. Luthor should know his desire to be a hero is less about his altruism and more about his self-glorification. I want to see a Lex Luthor who doesn't want to save humanity just out of pure compassion, but a man who wants to be worshipped just for doing so. Luthor believes Superman's existence prevents him from being the hero he could be, when it's his own flaws that prevent him from ever achieving it. It's the great paradox of Lex Luthor. Luthor blames Superman for humanity failing to reach its potential, yet it's his own fixation on defeating Superman keeping him from realizing his own. If he channeled the same energy and resources into positive endeavors, he could transform the world. I want a Lex Luthor that makes you see the Shakespearean tragedy in his character, the what if he makes you ask. Luthor is the most intelligent human being on Earth. I want to see that be the case in the DCU. Luthor's intellect and influence in the world of politics, business, foreign affairs could solve global issues everywhere from poverty to disease to climate change. Instead, he devotes his life to proving he's better than Superman. His priorities are about ego. Proving this worldview correct is more important than actually helping humanity. Humanity doesn't need Superman. It needs Lex Luthor at the top. It needs the world looking to Lex Luthor, listening to Lex Luthor, following Lex Luthor, praising Lex Luthor, loving Lex Luthor. I want to see Luthor's complex ego, believing he is the pinnacle of human achievement while fearing being irrelevant. I want a Shakespearean tragic figure, Luthor, a man who has the potential to be a force for good, but is undone by his own flaws, a man trapped in his own circle of self-destruction, defined by his own contradictions. Let Luthor be a mirror to humanity in the same way Superman is a mirror to humanity, embodying humanity's potential and its flaws, reminding us that intelligence and ambition, when they go unchecked by morality, lead to ruin. Let Luthor be a cautionary tale how envy and insecurity can consume even the most brilliant minds and prevent them from ever achieving greatness. Let Luthor be the complex, layered, compelling villain he is in the comics and should be on screen. Not evil for evil's sake, flawed. A deeply human character whose greatest enemy isn't Superman, but himself. And that's where I want to end the discussion today. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button to let me know, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already to join this community and stay in the loop. Don't forget to keep the conversation going down in the comments below. Having said all that, and with that said, stay safe, stay well, stay you, have a good one.